Oh God. Oh God.
Morning, everyone.
I don't know what to say about that.
Morning, Angela. Just in case you didn't know, football's coming home.
I don't know what to. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, apologies anybody who isn't English. We've got an Irishman and a Scotsman in the room already.
I am lost for words at that.
So am I. So am I. I don't know what I should say.
Look, Scotland. I mean, you put up a good fight. It didn't quite work out. Ireland didn't even qualify. Sorry, Stuart.
We did.
England, however, 3 lines on a shirt. It's happening. The final on Sunday.
You know something? As neighbours, and I was reading something this morning. There's been a lot of coverage in the press here. People really are wishing England well, going all out for England here in Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't imagine that'll be the case up in Scotland, Stuart Beveridge, but.
It makes no difference to me, Sam, to vote. It's not going to affect my life. I think it's going to be tough. I really, the Italians, they're never ever far away.
No, it'll be a good game, I think.
No, yeah. It's going to be a difficult one on Sunday. But we English, especially as far as football is concerned, we're spectacularly underwhelming most of the time. So we're hoping, praying that it works out. But any opportunity to play this song, bit of nostalgia, 1996. There you go. So morning, everyone. I thought we'd literally kick off with a bit of footballs coming home after the semi-final win last night. But yeah, I hope everybody's well. Welcome back. We've had a little break. We had a sort of a half-term break. We've all recharged our batteries. But yeah, we're really, really happy to welcome you all back for another Social Hub session, and we're excited to be exploring a brand new device today. So yeah, thank you to Stuart Lawler, who's going to be taking us through the BrailleSense 6 from our friends from HIMS. Who have just released this updated, upgraded device, which we're really excited to show you. Good. So before we do that, we'll just obviously go through the parish notices. We've got a cozier session today, which is good, but we know that lots of people now do catch with these sessions afterwards on YouTube, so that this session is being recorded. So please do share this with friends, family, colleagues, whoever you think might be interested in looking at the BrailleSense 6. Good. We've obviously got the chat box, because it is a very cozy session. There's even more opportunity for this to be interactive, for everybody to get involved, share your thoughts, comments, observations. If you're an existing note taker user, or you work with students perhaps who use Braille note takers, Braille displays, whatever it might be, please do share your experiences and get involved. I'm going to mute It's Coming Home now because we're over egging that massively. There you go. Good. Yes, so use the chat box. If you are using a screen reader to access the chat box, you've got Alt and H on a Windows machine, Command and H on a Mac. And yeah, if you'd like to raise your virtual hand to ask a question or to voice any comments, Alt and Y or Command and Y to do that, and then I can unmute you. Good. But before we kick off, just to say hello to the two Stuarts. It's good to have you both with us. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Sam. No bother.
Yeah, very good. Good. Stuart Beveridge, how's everything?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Been very busy. I was on holiday last week and came back to a mountain of work. So back into the swing of things with a bang. But yeah, really looking forward to this session today. I'll chip in where I can, guys. If there is a question I feel I can answer, I'll take it on. But obviously, it's going to be the good-looking Stuart show, as Stuart always says to me. So it's going to be Stuart Lawler's show today.
No.
Because I don't obviously, it's just, right off the shelf, this new BrailleSense 6. So, but as I say, if I'm quiet, it's probably because I don't have one yet. But as I say, I'll chip in where I can.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks, Stuart. And just remind me, Stuart Beveridge, do you use the BrailleSense Polaris?
Yes, I have a Polaris.
Yes.
Yet I was funded for one from Access to Work. So I've used a Polaris for a good 2 or 3 years now.
That's right. Yeah, I thought you did. I know we've discussed it before, but good. And yes, so for the BrailleSense Polaris, everybody is the previous model, previous version of the BrailleSense 6, which is what we're looking at now. So the new and improved Braille note taker from HIMS. Good. And how's everything over in Ireland, Stuart? Are you?
Yeah, all's good, Sam. I'm a little bit like Stuart Beveridge actually, because I took a week off last week and I came back on Monday, and I spent most of Monday, a fair amount of Monday, just going through emails, working out what I needed to respond to, and the way you try to work out which bits I will respond to, and what needs to be answered quickly. But anyway, I'm back into the swing of it and delighted to be back at the Social Hub and looking forward to talking about the BrailleSense 6.
Fantastic. Well, we all had a week off then. We all chose to have last week as annual leave. How did the company, did the charity function?
Still stands.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's amazing. Yes, but so we all had a week's annual leave, and we're back and ready to kick on. Good. We've got lots of exciting things planned for the Social Hub and our other sort of remote platforms that we use to share these webinars with you. Good, but without further ado, then we'll crack on, and we'll hand over to Stuart, who's going to take us through a live demonstration of the new BrailleSense 6. So over to you, Stuart.
Okay, thanks, Sam. So hello everybody again. Great to be back at the Social Hub. I'm just watching my time here to make sure that I get through everything, because I have to leave to go to another meeting at 11 o'clock, but we have plenty of time, and most importantly, of course, plenty of time for your questions. I suppose just before we talk about the BrailleSense 6, and maybe, people might say, well, why another Braille note taker? There's been lots of conversation and I suppose chatter in the blind community in the last couple of years about note takers and where their usefulness is in the kind of era of computing and mobile computing and all that kind of stuff. And the traditional note taker goes right back, of course, to the early 1990s with things like the Braille and Speak, which were around for a long time from Blazy Engineering. And of course, a lot of the functionality and the command structure and command set of things like the Braille and Speak are still with us today. So the note taker has evolved to a degree, but it's also sort of stayed with some of its key features, regardless of what note taker you buy. And one of the big things about note takers is efficiency and speed, I suppose. You kind of want something that you can turn on and start, typing on straight away. You're not going to produce your college thesis on this thing or on these things, but you are going to be able to do a lot of, I suppose, a lot of things on the go. And the biggest test for a note taker is, will it act as my main computer or my main communications channel for a period of time? So can I leave my home with just a BrailleSense Polaris or something else and not have to maybe take my computer and be as productive as I might be if I had my computer? And that's the question I ask myself every time I get a new note taker. So in the case of the L Braille, the answer was yes, absolutely. I could go away from home with the L Braille and have every single thing available to me. And I think the other Stuart would probably agree on that as well, because we've talked about the L Braille before. With the Polaris, the answer was no, I couldn't do that. It didn't have the same flexibility. And in terms of the BrailleSense 6, I'm thinking it's possible. I haven't really used it to that level yet, but for me, the key test of a note taker is how how flexible is this thing going to be when I'm out and about, and how quickly am I going to be able to access information? So I just wanted to kind of flag that, or just to kind of contextualize it a little bit. So the BrailleSense 6 is the next step, as Sam said, to its predecessor, which was the BrailleSense Polaris, and before that we had the BrailleSense U2. And I make reference to the BrailleSense U2 for a very specific reason, because there are some things in the BrailleSense 6 that were not in the Polaris, but that were in the U2 and that were brought back. And this is because customers were saying to HIMS, we miss things from the U2, from that old traditional note taker that was not in the Polaris, that we'd like you to bring back to the BrailleSense 6. And I'll flag some of those as we go along. So the BrailleSense 6 feels very like, if you were to put it into your hand, feels very like the Polaris. It's ever so slightly thinner, but there are some key changes. On the right-hand side of the BrailleSense 6, there are 3 ports. There are 2 USB-C ports, and there's a USB-A port. The USB-C ports are very helpfully Braille labeled. So on the rear, on the right-hand side at the back, near the back of the BrailleSense 6, there is the letter P, which means power. So that USB-C port is for power, is to charge. And towards the front, on the other side of the USB-A port, there's another USB-C port that has helpfully the label V over it, V for video. So you can connect that to a USB monitor, for example. On the left side, there's an SD card slot, and there is slots for headphones and microphones, and they're helpfully labeled with H and M respectively. And on the back of the BrailleSense 6, there is 1 USB-A port. So you now have 2 USB-A ports on the device. You only had 1 on the Polaris. This is also interesting because you can connect a lot of external peripherals to the BrailleSense 6. So you could connect cameras, you can connect external mics, you can connect mixers, USB audio interfaces. The general rule of thumb is, if Windows can pick it up, BrailleSense 6 will pick it up and we'll have a driver for it. So we're kind of, and I've been beta testing this since April, we're kind of interested to hear what people are testing on their BrailleSense 6, what they're connecting to it. I suppose at the risk of making a sweeping statement, and I don't want to, but people who are blind tend to be interested in producing audio or looking at sort of high quality audio and using all these sorts of audio tricks. And now with the BrailleSense 6, you really can produce and create some very high quality audio. The keyboard on the BrailleSense 6 has been changed slightly. The keyboard is similar-ish to that on the QBraille device, and the F keys, the function keys, also are slightly different to those that were found on the Polaris. The cursor routing keys exist over the BrailleSense 6's Braille terminal, with every 5th cursor routing key having a raised dot. And it's also important to say the BrailleSense 6 is available currently in 32-cell model only, with a mini coming later this year. It also has a small LCD screen at the top, and it has a set of stereo speakers. And one of the first things I noticed when I turned this thing on when I got it was that the stereo speakers sound really, really good. Now, in terms of specs, let's go through some comparisons to help you get a sense of what this thing's like. The BrailleSense Polaris had 3 gigs of RAM. The BrailleSense 6 has 6 gigs of RAM. The BrailleSense Polaris had 64 gig storage. The BrailleSense 6 has 128 gig storage. And it uses an Octa-Core processor, so it's a much faster processor for multitask. And of course, it runs version 10 of the Android system. So the BrailleSense 6, or sorry, the BrailleSense Polaris ran version 5, Android Lollipop, I believe that was called, and the BrailleSense 6 is running version 10. Now that means that a lot of applications which potentially were having problems running on the BrailleSense Polaris are going to install on the BrailleSense 6, and the whole feel of the experience is much faster. So Android really is fast on this, and I'm going to show you a little bit of Android apps as well later on. So let's just give you a sense of what this thing sounds like and the general layout of the menu. I will go through the main menu briefly because I want to show you a few changes, but the general layout of the menus are very similar. So for example,
File Manager.
this is the File Manager, the very first option on the system. And I hope everybody's hearing the audio okay. If there's any queries, please let me know. I just want to show you the speed at which programs open on the BrailleSense 6. We mentioned this processor, faster processor, obviously more RAM in the device as well for processing power. So let me show you how quickly these things can open. If I go to the word processor, I'm going to press I'm going to press enter now to open the word processor. So I'll tell you when I press enter, and then you'll see how quickly the word processor opens. I'm pressing enter now.
Top of document.
And my word processor is open already, and I have a new blank document that I can start typing on. The Polaris probably would have taken about twice as long to open the word processor. So it's just an interesting thing to give you a sense of how fast the applications work.
No name.doc save, no prompt but word processor.
Okay. So I've just closed the word processor. Let me just give you a quick tour of the Polaris, BrailleSense 6's main menu. I've had this thing for 3 months and I still call it a Polaris. So here we go. Here's the file manager. This is what you'll get to when you press the function key F1. And by the way, the function keys on the BrailleSense 6 work in the very same way as to what they did on the Polaris. And if anyone wants more information on that, I'm happy to take questions at the end.
File manager.
So here's the file manager. This is the same as it was on Polaris. And I will be coming back to the file manager in a little while to show you how the Google Drive system has been integrated into the file manager.
Word processor.
This is the word processor.
Notepad.
This is the notepad. It's worth mentioning the difference between the notepad and the word processor. There are a few. The notepad generally will not retain as much formatting in files, but it can sometimes be quicker if you need to navigate large files and edit large files. The notepad is also used for sending information to a braille embosser, whereas the word processor is used for printing. And it's also important to say that the BrailleSense 6 and indeed the Polaris can open PDF and PowerPoint files natively. So that's really useful. If you have a PDF file and you want to open it on the BrailleSense 6, you can do that. Now, of course, the usual kind of the usual things that we say about PDFs will always stand here as well, that the accessibility of PDFs may vary and your mileage may vary in terms of how well that works. Right, let's go down.
Email.
This is the email application. The email application has changed slightly in that it now supports a number of different email protocols, including POP3, IMAP, and of course, Microsoft Office 365. They're all part of the same email application now. On the older Polaris units, there was a separate email application if you wanted to use Office 365.
Media.
This is the media menu. This is the same as in the Polaris. The only added thing I want to mention here is that the media player now has a web radio built in. And hey, those of you who had the BrailleSense U2 will say, I remember the web radio from the U2. So this is an example of something that they took away in the Polaris, but they got a lot of requests, bring this thing back, and it's come back to the BrailleSense 6. So the web radio allows you to browse by genre or by country or by type of station, and then add those to your favorites. And they're using a database of web radios that is being always added to, so it will always download the latest version of the database. So you can be pretty certain that your favorite radio station is there. If it's not, for some reason, please get in touch with us and we'll make sure that it gets done.
Organizer.
This is the organizer menu. I just want to go in here for a second to show you something new. So let me press enter.
Address manager.
So this was here before in the Polaris. It's essentially the same as your contacts, your address manager.
Schedule manager.
This is the schedule manager for your calendar.
Database manager.
Aha, this is new. This is the database manager, another program that was brought from the U2. Now, if you use databases, if you have a lot of data to hold, you may find something like this useful. So it's not really like the address manager. It's more for holding information or records or a lot of data. And it's quite a sophisticated tool as it stands. So if you're interested in that, it may well be worth having a look at.
Schedule Manager.
Let me go back out of
Task
the,
name. Settings.
sorry.
Button Navigate. File Manager.
Go back to
Word
my,
me or Web Tools. Extras.
here's the web tools.
Web Tools.
Now, I always said, and I don't know how Stuart Beveridge would feel about this, but I always said, and I have always said, and I continue to always say, that if you want a web browser, I would have not suggested the Polaris is going to be your solution for an efficient web browsing experience. And I'm going to say the very same for the BrailleSense 6. The native browser that HIMS use is, I suppose, it was developed many years ago. It hasn't been hugely enhanced. It is mainly a text-based browser. And the problem with it, of course, is that most websites nowadays that use all sorts of other things, and most websites, let's face it, are very live these days, they're just not going to work optimally with that. So for example, if there are buttons on websites, the HIMS browser may not well see it. But this is an Android device, remember? So you can potentially go and install anything. You can install Chrome. Well, Chrome is there already. You could install Microsoft Edge. You could install Firefox. You could install Brave if you want to try the Brave browser. And of course, as with anything, when you're installing apps, you got to check the accessibility. But we do know, for example, that Microsoft Edge is working very well already because it's a Chromium-based browser. So again, play with these things. The built-in browser from HIMS, it's fine for quick browsing, quick searches, but it's probably not going to be your main browser.
Extras.
Here's the extras. I do want to go in here for a minute because there's a few things have changed.
Excel Viewer.
So this is the Excel viewer. This was always here. You can view Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. You can't edit them, but you can view them. So if somebody sends you a spreadsheet and you want to have a look at it, you can do that.
Online Daisy.
Online Daisy is not actually used in our part of the world. It was specifically built for the Canadian and Australian market, where they have a downloadable library that's linked to the BrailleSense devices. So we don't have access to it at the moment anyway.
Sense Dictionary.
This one I do want to show you, or at least I do want to mention, the Sense Dictionary. This was an extra before on the BrailleSense Polaris and indeed on the BrailleSense U2. And we had so many requests from schools in particular, because this product is big in the education market. And a lot of people saying to us, hey, we want to be able to use, to have access to the dictionary. As standard without having to purchase another license. And HIMS have taken that feedback, and every BrailleSense 6 now has the dictionary free. And you have Collins English dictionary, but you also have French, Italian, Spanish, and German, I believe. So that's really good that that's now included free of charge on all BrailleSense 6 devices.
Color Reader.
This one's new, Color Reader. This uses the camera on the BrailleSense 6 to, guess what, read colors. Now there's a problem, of course, isn't there? Because, and I think we're always very honest on these webinars, I don't know why HIMS have placed the camera where they did. And I don't know why that was never changed on the newer BrailleSense 6 as well, because the camera is underneath the BrailleSense. So if you want to scan something with the camera, you've got to kind of hold the thing up in your hand or point it forward and almost hold it upside down. But of course, now that we can connect external cameras, people have been having much more success with the color reader or with other scanning applications by connecting external cameras to their BrailleSense 6 and scanning that way. So if you're really going to do this, it's worth investing in a camera. Any USB camera should connect to your BrailleSense 6. If you have a web camera or anything like that, you should be able to do it. Indeed, somebody asked me the other day about the Pearl camera. So if you have a Pearl camera, in theory, there's no reason why that won't work either.
Bookshare Download.
Now, this is the Bookshare download application. So if you have a Bookshare ID, through the RNIB in the UK or the NCBI here in Ireland, or indeed anywhere else that people may be watching this, you can access the Bookshare service directly from your BrailleSense 6. This was not on the Polaris. On the Polaris, we had to install a third-party app. And it's important to say, by the way, there are many out there, but you did need to use a third-party app. The Bookshare download is really, really good. And I will come back to that in a little while.
Bookshare download.
Okay.
Task name. Settings.
I'm just going to
Button
quickly go back
file
to my
mat
main
or
menu.
or web extra util set help. Set utilities.
This is the utilities utilities menu. There's nothing much in here. Nothing has changed, rather. The only thing I do want to mention in here is that there's an option to, I'll actually show you where it is. If you go into utilities,
Calculator.
the very last option here, it says
upgrade BrailleSense firmware.
Upgrade BrailleSense firmware. There will be pretty regular updates coming out for the BrailleSense for the next little while. When a new product is launched, obviously, you have to make a call at some point to kind of sign off on the new features and just get the hardware out the door, on the understanding that you're going to continue to refine the software implementation on the device. And that's what HIMS are doing at the moment. We are already seeing updated software in the beta cycle on the BrailleSense 6. That's how responsive they are. So if something's not working for you, there will be an update coming soon that will fix any challenges or problems that people may have at the moment. And if you do experience problems, please report them to us.
Task name, setting, file manager.
The reason this is going back to my task manager all the time, by the way, is because I'm using an app to share my screen.
Utility, setting, help. Settings.
This is the settings area, and inside here as well, of course, you also have access to your Android system settings, so you can do everything inside the Android area, including setting up accounts, so like adding your Google account, for example, which you would need to do if you want to use the Play Store.
Help, Play Store.
Speaking of the Play Store, there it is. We can go in here and we can download apps. You can also install your apps from a previous installation. So if you're upgrading from a Polaris, for example, and you had apps installed on the Polaris, you can sign in to the Google account using the same system, and you will be able to you'll be able to install all the apps that you had on your Polaris automatically.
All apps.
And this is the all apps part of the main menu. And if you go in here,
Apple Music.
These are apps that I have installed on my BrailleSense 6.
Assistant. Audible. Calculator. Calendar.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a sense of that. Now I'm going to go back to my main menu.
File manager.
And I'm going to switch off my voice for a sec, because I do want to show you one really nice feature that, again, is not easily built into Polaris. But if I turn off my voice for a second, and I'll tell you why I'm turning off the voice in a sec, or you'll see rather why.
Voice off.
Hey Google, what's the weather today?
In Dublin today, it'll be cloudy, with a forecasted high of 18 and a low of 13.
So
currently it's 16 degrees and mostly cloudy.
Thanks, Google. So my Hey Google works now. I'm saying this quietly because I don't want to trigger it again, by just saying it. And when you're setting up your Polaris, you can set all these things up. Hey Google, tell me a joke.
What do you call a dog that can do magic? A labracadabrador.
I think Sam would appreciate that in particular.
That if there's any reason to buy the BrailleSense 6, everyone, it's that. just that.
Look, there you go, just for the jokes. But it's really handy to have that Google. So I for example, use things like, let's just see, I'm in North Dublin now. So if I want to go to O'Connell Street, which is in the center of Dublin, for anyone who's been in Dublin. Hey Google, how long will it take me to get from here to O'Connell Street?
Here are your results.
I think I didn't ask it that properly. Hey Google, how far is it to O'Connell Street?
If you drive, O'Connell Street Upper is 3.6 kilometers away.
That's about right. Okay. So So you see, and somebody's Google Home has just reacted at the same time. Okay, I'm very sorry. It's very sorry, Paul. Okay, right. We're going to go back anyway. I just wanted to show you that's a great idea or a great example of how Android is built right into this device. So I'm going to switch my voice back on.
Voice on. File Manager.
And I talked a few minutes ago, didn't I, about Google Drive being built into the File Manager. If you go into the File Manager here, and this, by the way, is also available on Polaris, but I think it's worth showing this really quickly because people don't sometimes realize how easy this is. I find Google Drive on Windows not to be the easiest to use all the time. So if I press Enter here on the File Manager,
Flash Disk 1-2 list item.
I have Flash Disk, which is my internal storage. And if I go down arrow,
Google Drive 2-2 list
Google
item.
Drive. Now, the first time I go in here, I will have to sign into my Google Drive, enter my username and password, or my email address and password. But after that, when I press enter,
Audible folder 118 list item.
I'm now seeing my Google Drive contents just as though it was any other drive.
Books folder 218 list item.
So if I go into books, for example,
Duthbreder folder 1-3 list item. The Devil's Alternative folder 2-3 list
so
item.
some books that I have, if I press the backspace key, it'll bring me back into my main Google Drive.
Books folder 218 list item.
Now, what I could do now is I could create a new folder, for example. So if I press Enter and F, which is the shortcut key,
New folder dialog.
I'll create
New
a folder
folder ED.
called
LOSWE. N.
sorry, I'll just create a folder called Stuart Beverage,
Stuart. Beverage.
and I'll press Enter.
Creating. New folder created. Stuart Beverage folder 919 list item.
Now I've created that folder on my Google Drive, so then I could go off to my Google Drive on my computer and I could share that folder with Stuart Beverage. And Stuart Beverage could add files to it and I would see these files on my Polaris. Now what you can't do, unfortunately, yet is you can't do the reverse. So Stuart Beverage couldn't share a folder with me. I wouldn't see that folder on my Polaris. You can only see folders that you have shared, not that have been shared with you. It's a feature that we have asked for, and it's something that they're going to implement because for schools, this is really important. But it's efficient, it's fast, and once you're connected to the internet, it works really well. So I'm going to come out of that for a sec.
File Manager. File Manager.
Now, let's look at Bookshare, because we talked about Bookshare a few minutes ago. How does it all work? Let's go back to the Extras menu with the letter X.
Excel Viewer.
And go down to Bookshare.
Bookshare download.
The first time you go into Bookshare download, you have to log in with your username and password. There's options when you do that to save your username and password and to log in automatically next time. So I have done all that already, okay? But the first time you do this, you'll be asked for your Bookshare ID. So I'm going to press Enter here to open the Bookshare app. It's logging me in. And
login success.
there we go.
Books 1-3 list item.
So now I'm in the Bookshare app. This is a Polaris app, right? So it's not an Android application. So it will have this note taker feel to it.
Periodicals 2-3 list
There are
item.
books, there are periodicals, and there are
History 3-3 list
your
item.
history. That's your viewing history, what you have viewed already. So I'm going to go back up to books.
Books 1-3 list item. Search type. Word 1-3 list item.
So I can search by word.
Category 2-3 list item.
I can search by category.
Full text 3-3 list item.
Or full text, which I think, I haven't used this, but I think it's like you can search for a string of text if you weren't quite sure of the title of the book.
Word 1-3 list
So I'm going
item.
to press Enter on Word.
Title, author or ISBN. Edit box.
So this is using the Bookshare platform, I suppose, to do a search, title, author, or ISBN. So I'm just going to search for Treasure Island.
Treasure.
Sorry.
Lower B. Island.
I'm going
Space.
to press Enter.
Results. Treasure Island 150 list item.
Now there's 50 books. That's because it searches for 50 items at a time. You can make some changes to these things in the settings. So it's come up with the first 50 results. I didn't realize there were 50 treasure islands, but there are also, remember, there are lots of kind of books to, like a guidebook, for example, for Treasure Island. So this may not be the Treasure Island. I want the Robert Louis Stevenson one. So let's press the tab key.
Download book button.
Well, I don't want to download it just yet.
Book detail button.
That's what I want. I want to know a bit more about this before I decide whether I want to download it. So let me press enter here.
Book detail dialog. Title, Treasure Island static box.
And I'm going to go down with space with .4.
Author, Gilmonton static box.
Okay, straight away I know that's not the one I want, so I'll press space and Z.
Book detail button.
Go back to
Results.
my list.
Treasure Island 250 list. Book
Go back to
detail
book
button.
Detail.
Book detail dialog. Title, Treasure Island static
Go
box.
down.
Author, Robert Louis Stevenson.
Well, that
Avi
looks better,
static.
doesn't it?
ISBN.
Don't want the ISBN. Let me get some synopsis.
Synopsis. Treasure Island. Since its publication in 1883, generations have enjoyed this captivating tale of young Jim Hawkins and Long John Silver, the pirate rogue. This adventure of all adventure.
I think I want that one.
Download book button.
I'm going to press enter.
Book detail button.
And it's downloading. I get a little progress on my Braille display. The book is being downloaded, and I'm just going to show you then, once it's downloaded, what happens. So we're just waiting. I think it's giving me a Word doc. So Bookshare obviously has to build the book for you, and then the book downloads.
Book detail button.
Okay. Now, what will happen with Bookshare, there's a few things you can configure it to do. You can either configure it to open the book automatically and bring you straight in and start reading it, or you can configure it to just stay in the Bookshare application. I think I must have configured mine not to do anything. You can also set Bookshare up so that if it's a DAISY file, it opens it in the DAISY player. I think on my Bookshare, and this is to do with the preferences you set on the Bookshare system itself. I think on my Bookshare, I have set my preference for Word as opposed to DAISY text. So that's why I didn't get a DAISY book. So let's close Bookshare for a sec.
Bookshare
Let's
download.
go back to File Manager.
File Manager.
Let's press enter.
Flash disk 1-2 list
Enter
item.
on flash disk.
Bookshare folder 110 list
And here's a
item.
folder called Bookshare. So we'll press enter here.
Treasure Island no addition information folder 11 list item.
Look at that. That's Treasure Islands that we've just downloaded. We can press enter here.
DAISY CSS 112 list
So
item.
it has actually given me a DAISY file of Treasure Islands. So now I could go into the DAISY player on the BrailleSense 6 and open the Treasure Island book.
File Manager.
A few more quick things I want to mention. There is a very sophisticated, and this will come to Polaris as well, by the way, very sophisticated utility, or well, maybe very sophisticated is not the right word, but very useful utility called language profiles. I think one of the biggest challenges in the Polaris was for people in school and college who were doing multiple, who were using or needing to access multiple languages. And it was very complicated to have to switch Braille grade and then system language and then synthesizer language, because you couldn't do it all together. On the Polaris, they introduced macros a little over a year ago, and that helped to some degree, but they were still rather clunky to set up. Now we have the language profiles, which allows you to configure as many languages as you want and switch them. And it also has the option, and this is important, to allow for multiple language support in a document. So if you have a document with English and French, you can configure the BrailleSense 6 language profiles so that the language will change automatically as the language in the text changes. Now the caveat to this is that the file or the document you're using has to be marked up correctly with the correct language codes, and that's really important. In terms of Android applications, well, you saw some of the stuff that's in mine. I've run Apple Music, I've run Spotify, I've run Netflix, I know people have used things like BBC Sounds on theirs. We don't have access to that over here. I've run Telegram, the messaging app. I have used WhatsApp, but the problem, of course, with WhatsApp is that you can only have it registered to one phone at a time, and I tend to use that on my primary phone. But installing apps from the Play Store is very straightforward, and we're always interested to know what apps people are using, just to get a sense of how well it's going. I've used Audible. Audible's very nice on the BrailleSense 6 as well, as it is on the Polaris. I mean, a lot of these were very accessible on the Polaris too. When you're in an Android application, of course, the keystrokes you'll use will be slightly different. You'll use Tab and Shift Tab to navigate forward and backwards on the screen. And the other thing about Android applications on the BrailleSense 6 and indeed in the Polaris is that first letter navigation is used. So, for example, if you wanted to search, you'd press the letter S. If you want help, you'd press the letter H, etc. Okay. Sam, I've talked a lot. I hope not too much, but to give an overview, but I'm really keen to make sure we allow some time for questions. So it might be a good time to allow people to pop in if they wish.
Well, at the moment, everybody's obviously they're more than satisfied with your demonstration, because we don't have any questions queued. I know it's only a small session today, but yeah, please do, anyone, if you do have anything, not necessarily a question, just anything you'd like to share. If you're using an existing note taker, whether it's a Polaris or another model, we're happy to compare and contrast. So yeah, please do chip in. But Stuart Beveridge, I'm keen to hear from you as well, actually, to sort of see what your, as a note taker user, what your sort of what your feeling is about the BrailleSense 6. Will this be something that you'll sort of benefit from upgrading?
So because it's access to work, I don't have a personal one, so I would have to look in to see what would happen there in terms of an upgrade. But obviously, I mean, you've got double the speed there, you've got double the power, haven't you? So
the storage is impressive.
So I can't see the Polaris. I could probably see the Polaris. There won't be much more updates coming to the Polaris, don't think, because I don't think the hardware is is there, is it? But
it will be supported for quite a while.
You've made it, and you've actually made a good point, Stuart, in terms of Polaris. So the version of Android on Polaris cannot be upgraded. That's unfortunately, but yeah, the Polaris will continue to be supported. They will continue bringing out updates to let's say the hymns functionality. Let's say the Polaris apps themselves.
Yeah.
But the version of Android, I should have said this on the BrailleSense 6, the version of Android can be updated, and they have undertaken to update it later in the cycle. That doesn't mean, so at currently Android 11, for example, this is on version 10, you can't put version 11 on this yourself, but they have undertaken to do an OS update on the BrailleSense 6 at some point next year, and I think that's really good to know.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interest, because that was a question I had, and the reason being, let's face it, we're consumers at the end of the day as well. And what used to get me was, I've paid, it's a lot of money, isn't it? £4,000 or £5,000 for one of these things. And within, a 2 or 3 year cycle, even with trade-ins, we can't upgrade this Android anymore. We're going to bring out a whole new device. So that's a very interesting, really, really is food for thought for me, that obviously this device is going to be around for a long, long time, by the sound of it. Although I do agree with Stuart L. I mean, to be honest, again, it's personal, but nothing's going to beat the L Braille. That's for another day.
I think you're right, and that's kind of why I started this session off by talking a little bit about the ultimate test for these things. It's a bit like somebody years ago talked to me about GPS technology, and this is going back quite a while now. We were looking at some early-ish GPS devices, and a friend of mine who's a mobility worker, she said, look, you can talk about all this stuff, but the best test is go somewhere where you haven't been before and try and find some. If the GPS gets you there, then that's great, And I think it's a bit like if you're taking your L Braille or your Polaris or your BrailleSense 6 or whatever you use, can you survive with it can you do everything you would do to the same level, of, you know, is your productivity the same, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, I think we've got a couple of hands raised actually, so we can jump to Julia if you'd like to join us. Just need to unmute. Hi, Julia. There you go.
Oh, hiya. It's Frank from with Julia.
Oh, hello, Frank and Julia.
Hi, Frank. Hi, Frank and Julia.
Hiya, both. Now, the question I want to know is I've got quite a number of emails on my Polaris, and I want to copy all the detail to the BrailleSense 6. Can I delete the email folder on the BrailleSense 6 and copy my email folder from the Polaris to it? Will it work?
There's, I think it should, but there's actually an email export. You can export the EML files, although you'd have to do that on a per message basis. Are you storing messages, Frank, on, is your email set up as an IMAP account or POP3?
It's a POP3.
Okay. If it was an IMAP, then it wouldn't matter.
The all email.
Yeah, so I think you should be able to do that. That you'll have to configure the account on the new device. So what I would probably suggest is configure the account first and then replace the email folder, but maybe do that with us over the phone so that we can make sure it works before you get rid of your old device.
Yeah, okay, I understand
so
that.
If you
I
want,
have tried in the, well, obviously I've saved the email to an SD card and all the detail of that folder. I've obviously deleted the account, and then I have put the account back on and it's worked. So I hope that if I just have all my detail in of my email and whatever else, my address name, it'll copy across.
The key thing is that because it's POP3, obviously the messages are stored on the device as opposed to on the server.
Yes.
So you need to, obviously, if the test of that will be, do you see your old inbox and can you open a message from that? If you can, then you're sorted. But if you want to give us a ring, if you ring up, like if you ring into Sight and Sound, and if you ask for me, I'm happy to help you with that.
Yeah, okay. I can do all these things. I like computers. I like playing things. So
okay. Well, look, give us as I say, if you need it, give us a shout.
I'll tell you if it works.
All right. Good stuff.
Thank you.
All right, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. And now we have Derry with the hand up. So we'll welcome Derry to the panel.
Hello, how are you keeping?
Hi, Derry. Morning.
Stuart and Sam. Great to hear you. A couple of questions. What's the many cells around the Braille display?
So the Braille display has 32 cells.
Good stuff. And the Android is version 10, and that is updatable. Is that correct?
Yeah. So they put version 10 on the device. Obviously, newer devices now are running version 11, but you can't update the Android yourself. But they have said they'll do a refresh of the operating system next year.
And what key command did you use to turn your speech off so you could use the Google?
Backspace with F2.
Okay, I used to have a Braille and Speak, then a Braille Note Empire, and a PackMe. And I haven't had a Braille, I wouldn't note takers in a long time, but this one sounds like a great device, I must say. And thanks for showing us off.
Yeah, it's really fast. And I mean, I suppose you have bits of the note taker stuff. And as I said, some stuff that came from the BrailleSense, the old BrailleSense U2, has come back into the BrailleSense 6, which is interesting. So yeah, it's good.
Can you put the Easy Reader app on?
You can. I actually haven't put Easy Reader on because I've been using Bookshare download, but you can, I'm sure. No, I mean, you can install it from the Play Store. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right, Derry. Good to talk to you. Take care.
Thanks, Derry. Excellent. Good. For anybody else, if you want to to come in, then again, just raise your hand or pop something in the chat box. Please do. But yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left, Stuart. But if is there anything else that you'd like to share? Are you?
Yeah, I suppose really just it does in terms of there's probably other stuff that has happened on the Polaris. So anything you can do on the Polaris, you can still do. Maybe I should mention as well that you can use this as a terminal for a screen reader or your mobile phone, for example. So you could use it to control your iPhone or your Android device, or even work with a screen reader. Outside, obviously, of the BrailleSense itself, which can be very, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I visit a lot of people who use their phone in the same. Yeah, they're very keen to use the Polaris as a terminal for their phone or. I just see
there's a message saying, did we cover battery life? We didn't. It's a good point from Paul.
Yeah.
I think they're suggesting something along the lines of kind of 15 hours. I think 15, 16 hours was what the Polaris goes for. To be honest, I haven't really gauged the battery on this one, and the unit I have is a pre-production unit, so it's not probably the best benchmark. I have a feeling, I don't have the manual in front of me, but I have a feeling that they talk about 16 hours, 15 to 16 hours battery life. Of course, it's always going to depend on what's connected, whether you have Bluetooth on.
Yeah.
There are other variables.
I think it's similar to the Polaris, isn't it?
So, yeah, it's a similar battery.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, thank you, Paul, for that. Excellent. Good. Well, I know that Stuart, I know you have you're in demand as always. You've got to rush off to another session in a few minutes anyway.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. So it's probably a good place to bring the presentation to a close. Unless anybody's got a burning question before we finish. Good, but that's brilliant, Stuart. Thanks so much for sharing your sort of inside knowledge, because this device literally has just landed in the UK. We've only just sent out the first couple of brand new units. So so we're all getting an insight here into something that's brand new, off the shelf.
And Sam, can I just say there are some resources, like there's obviously HIMS have produced a number of videos. So if you go onto YouTube and search for BrailleSense 6, Jenny Axler from HIMS has produced some really good stuff. There's also, we have a podcast where Jenny, there's a few actually on our podcast page, one where Jenny comes on and talks about the device, another one where they talk about just, I suppose, the differences between BrailleSense 6 and Polaris. So if people want to find those, they're on the Sight and Sound podcast page.
Yes. Yeah, they're really useful resources as well, everyone. Jenny's great, isn't she? So she's very, very good. I think Frank and Julie, I just wanted to come back in quickly, if that's all right, Stuart.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hi, Frank and Julia again.
Yeah, hi there. I like your presentation, very good, but Sight and Sound, they're a bit naughty, because they've taken all my hard-earned cash, and I'm still waiting for the Polaris. Please deliver it soon.
For the Polaris, or for the BrailleSense 6?
For the BrailleSense
6. Yeah, I've got the Polaris, and obviously I want to.
Did you
new one.
Yeah, I mean,
you pre-ordered, yeah.
Yeah. I went for the offer, and I've got the device to trade in for it. It's a very good offer.
I know, Frank, that we have been literally, like, I know, for example, our colleague James Everson has been screaming to HIMS every day saying, please, where are they? It's been as frustrating for us. And I know there was a shipment last week. I'm not sure what's in terms of, but if you want to send me an email, or even send an email into sales at Sight and Sound and just mark it for Stuart, I'll personally try and follow up and find out where yours is.
Yeah, there is
I'm
obviously.
Sure it'll come eventually.
Oh, it will.
It will. But I understand you'd like to know. So if you want to send an email in, just give me your number or something, and I'll.
I want it today, not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Right. We'll get on the case for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No, for anybody else that's waiting as well, the shipment has landed, and they're furiously working through getting them out to, the sort of in order of how they were pre-ordered or traded in. So yeah, we will get them to you. I promise you.
I'm sorry, we just had a quick question on chat there. Will the BrailleSense 6 support USB 3 peripherals? And the answer is I don't know. I have not tested, so I'll find out. And we'll. I think that came from another Stuart.
Yes, it did. That came
so,
from Stuart Deadman. Yeah.
Oh, Stuart, I've talked to Stuart before. Stuart, if you want to just send me a quick email, I'll have to ask him that to be sure.
Yep.
I don't think I have any USB 3 peripherals here. Test.
No problem. Okay, thanks, Stuart. Yeah, we'll certainly get back to you on that one. Very good. We do have to let Stuart Lawler go now because he's got another meeting. No problem.
Yeah,
no,
apologies.
Thanks so much, Stuart. We really appreciate your time this morning.
Nice to speak to you, Sam and Stuart, as always, and everybody else. And we'll catch up with you all soon.
Thanks, Stuart. That's great.
Take care.
Yeah, and for everybody that's still that's hung around, thank you for joining us again for another session. It's always great to pick apart this new technology and to challenge it and to get the sort of insight and the updates of what's to come. We've got more activity over the next few weeks. As always, we've got a regular webinar Wednesday, which Stuart Lawler runs every other Wednesday. So it runs on alternate weeks to the Social Hub. So next Wednesday is the next session, July the 14th at 2 o'clock. Stuart Lawler will be running another tech surgery. And we've got Tristan from our technical support team who will be joining us, or joining Stuart, sorry, to answer any of your questions, to discuss any common concerns, technical difficulties that anybody might be having with their devices. So that's next week. And then me and Stuart Beveridge will be back the following Thursday, which is, I've got the date in front of me, it'll be the 23rd, sorry, 22nd. To look at screen readers, alternative screen readers though. So we'll be looking at free, paid for, the whole sort of plethora of screen readers that we'll be digging apart, and Stuart will be obviously leading that one as a screen reader user, won't you, Stuart? Good. Excellent. Well, thanks, Stuart Beveridge, as always, for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure as always, Sam, and look forward to catching up again soon, as always.
Yeah, definitely. And just remember, everybody, it's coming home. Sunday, Euro final. Come on, England. That's what I'm going to say. Sorry, Stuart, to rub that in one last time. Good. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. And we'll see you all very soon. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.